Hey there! Today we will be spending some time on the island of Crete in Greece. This trip was a good opportunity to use some new gear as well as film stock that caught my attention. I took with me my trusty Nikon F80 and Nikon F3, which I fancied to get for a while, as well as a Yashica D TLR. Regarding film stock, I took along several rolls of Lomography film stock, such as Lomo Purple, but also Kodak Portra and Gold. I stayed in a town called Marina, mostly hanging out there, but also visiting a few times the historic city of Chania. I also spent some time in the nature, hiking through the Samaria Gorge. And here we go, starting off in a touristic hotspot, the historic Venetian port of Chania. These crowded places are not fun, but if you want to explore such historic sites in Europe, there is no way around them. This black and white film is Lomography's Babylon 13 from the Kino black and white product family. They advertised this film stock to have soft and alluring gray tones, very fine grain, suitable for detailed scenes. Well, I can agree to that, but ISO 13 is not necessarily much fun, I must admit. Most of the time in the city was spent around the port, but also walking through the narrow streets full of restaurants and all those typical touristic souvenir shops. Alright, time to get out of the city and explore the beach near my accommodation. In October, the beach vacation season seems to close. Palm trees are wrapped, barely any tourists are on the beach, and most of the restaurants also close for the winter. This quiet environment is pleasant, but also feels a bit uncomfortable, as if these places are not meant to feel deserted. During the walks along the beach, this empty place caught my attention, and it was time to get Lomography's Purple out. I have been curious about this film stock. For these graffitis though, a regular color film would have been better. But I do see some potential in this film stock for landscape photography. Next up is the Samaria Gorge, one of the longest canyons in Europe with about 16 kilometers. It is one of the highlights of this island. Being there at the end of the season, it was fortunately less crowded. I used mostly Lomo Purple and Lomo 92 during that hike. I also had Lomo Turquoise with me, but failed to load it properly. The film did not stay in the take-up spool, and I just realized when I thought that I'm half through with the film. I ended up with a completely blank roll, my first blank roll so far. while the footage of the gorge keeps on going and I thought I'm shooting Lomo turquoise, let me show you some more images which have no linked footage. I loaded Kodak Gold into the TLR and I really liked the results. Especially these beach images with the white sky. Really like the perspective and composition. We'll keep it in mind for the future. There is some complexity with the layers that make these images interesting to me. The massive sky that appears to even squeeze down the low-hanging clouds gives it so much depth. Generally, I always find it a struggle to take pictures of a beach and the sea. Just stripes of sand, water and sky. That combo too often turns out dull. But these here I like. They remind me of a painting that I like a lot, Caspar David Friedrich's The Monk by the Sea. This image from one of the roads leading down into town towards the sea is also nice. I quite like the layers with the sea in the background. A bit of an impression of the surrounding olive trees. And a night shot of a gas station. One positive aspect of those beach photos is also the correct manual light metering, which I did with an app on my phone. What caught my attention negatively during this trip is how some of the Portra 400 shots with the F3 turned out. At the coast, there is a strong tendency for grain and therefore underexposure. I used it in auto mode. I need to see if the internal light meter works well enough or if some of the shutter timings are not correct. Anyways, with ISO 400 during a bright day, I would not expect underexposure. I also had some thoughts about the Lomo film stock that I tried out. I believe that I can further explore Lomo purple for landscape photography. Aside of the colors, I like how distant parts like hills and mountains increasingly fade. Maybe that had to do with the weather conditions, but eventually that might also be one of the film stock's characteristics. The other black and white, as well as color film, seems less suitable for my purpose. They have an artistic touch, but these films most likely shine brightest with portrait photography, I believe. Another aspect is also their price tags. These films are relatively expensive. Alright, hope you liked this video. See you next time.